Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment and regretted it for the rest of your life? Maybe it was during an argument with someone you loved. Maybe it was the last thing you ever said to her. Before we dive into the 7 things an intelligent man never says, I want you to pause for just a second and think about her, the one you lost, or the one you're scared to lose. Maybe you're still with her, but something's different, colder, quieter. And now ask yourself, could it be the words you chose that led to this distance? This video might just change the way you speak forever. So before we begin, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and watch till the very end. Because what you learn here today could literally rebuild your love life or save the one you have. Let's begin. 1. I don't care. The lie that destroys love. It always starts with silence, then something snaps. I don't care. Those 3 words, so short, so sharp, so dangerous. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man, let's call him Alex. Intelligent, well-spoken, stoic in appearance, but prideful. Too proud to show how much he truly cared about the woman he loved. He and Maya had been together for almost 2 years. The kind of relationship where silence could be comfortable until it wasn't. One night she sat on the edge of the bed, tears in her eyes. She was hurting, and all she wanted was a sign, any sign, that he still cared, that all of it meant something, that the way he used to hold her wasn't just a memory. And he said it, I don't care, not because he didn't, but because he did, so much that it terrified him. And that fear twisted into defensiveness, and that defensiveness turned into words designed to protect his ego. But those words pierced her heart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed. But Alex didn't seek truth. He sought safety. His pride overpowered his love. The truth? He cared deeply. He just didn't want to lose the upper hand. But tell me honestly, what's the value of winning an argument if it means losing a person? Have you ever said I don't care when your heart was begging to scream the opposite? That's not strength. That's fear hiding behind pride. An intelligent man, a truly wise man, never says I don't care because he knows the damage those words can do. He knows that indifference is the poison that slowly kills relationships. He knows that being vulnerable isn't weakness, it's power. Because when you look her in the eyes and say, I care and I'm listening, you open a door. But when you say I don't care, you slam it shut, and sometimes forever. You see, intelligence isn't just about books, degrees, or philosophy. It's about emotional mastery. About having the strength to feel without falling apart. About choosing your words with care because they might be the last thing someone remembers. If she left, maybe it wasn't because you didn't care. Maybe it's because you told her you didn't over and over again until she believed it. So let me ask you again. Have you ever used those words? Have you ever watched love walk away because your pride spoke louder than your heart? Don't let it happen again. If you're still with her, whisper something different tonight. Tell her, I do care, I always have. Watch how those words can melt what months of silence built up. An intelligent man knows when to speak, but more importantly, what never to say. And I don't care. That's a phrase he buries deep and never resurrects again. 2. You're too sensitive. The subtle dagger of dismissal. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes, someone who just poured their heart out to you, and instead of holding that fragile truth gently, you crushed it with 2 careless words? You're too sensitive. If you've ever said that to someone you love, especially a woman, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let me take you back to a rainy evening. His name was Daniel, her name, Eliza. They weren't fighting, not yet. But the air was tight, like something was waiting to crack. Eliza had been quiet all day, not cold, not cruel, just distant. Like her spirit had wandered somewhere he couldn't reach. She finally spoke. I feel like you haven't really been here lately. And Daniel, tired from work, frustrated from his own battles, snapped, You're too sensitive, you always overthink everything. Her lips parted slightly as if she'd been slapped without warning. She didn't argue. She just turned her head away, and he watched the light go out in her eyes. And do you know what Marcus Aurelius would have said in that moment? Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. But Daniel had done the opposite. He had been strict with her and soft with his own excuses. What did he mean by too sensitive anyway? That she felt too much? That her emotions made him uncomfortable? That her need for reassurance was somehow a flaw? Here's what most men don't understand. When a woman opens up emotionally, she's not being weak, she's being brave. She's letting you into a sacred part of her world. And when you tell her she's too sensitive, what you're really saying is, your feelings are inconvenient to me. I don't want to deal with them. I'd rather silence you than understand you. And once a woman feels unheard, it's only a matter of time before she becomes unseen. This moment right here, this is where relationships start to decay. Not with loud fights or betrayal, but with subtle dismissals. An intelligent man knows this. He understands that emotional intelligence is not about solving problems quickly. It's about creating space. It's about hearing what's underneath the words. She's not too sensitive. She's just been taught to hide how deeply she feels. And in you, she hoped she could finally let it out. But tell me, when was the last time you asked her how she was really feeling? And listened without fixing, judging, or rushing? The next time she says something that stings or surprises you, pause. Breathe. Don't say, you're too sensitive. Say, tell me more, I want to understand. Because when she feels seen, she blooms. But when she feels belittled, she withdraws. And once she starts building emotional walls, they rarely come back down. Daniel realized this too late. Eliza stopped talking. Not because she had nothing to say, but because she had learned that her emotions weren't welcome. So ask yourself, are you creating a safe place for her to be real? Or are you slowly teaching her to keep her heart hidden? An intelligent man never says, you're too sensitive, because he knows her emotions aren't the problem. His discomfort is, 3, that's just how I am. The excuse that ends growth. Be honest with me. Have you ever said those 5 words to someone who was pleading for your attention, your effort, your change? That's just how I am. They sound harmless, don't they? Maybe even confident. But in truth, they're a declaration of defeat. A subtle way of saying, I've stopped growing, and I expect you to accept my worst. Let me tell you about a man named Raphael. He was the type who prided himself on being real, the take it or leave it type, no filters, no masks, and no interest in changing for anyone. He met Liana at a quiet bookshop. She was drawn to his confidence, his strength, his unapologetic nature. And at first, that's what made her fall in love. But confidence without compassion slowly turns to arrogance. Over time, she noticed things. His quick temper, the way he shut down emotionally, his refusal to apologize. One night after a fight, she said gently, Raphael, and when you get angry like that, it scares me. You shut me out, it hurts. And do you know what he said? He looked her dead in the eyes and said, that's just how I am. You knew that when you met me. In that moment, something inside her broke. Not loudly, but quietly, in the way a heart stops believing it's safe. Raphael thought he was being strong, but Marcus Aurelius once said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. And here's the truth Raphael missed. Stoicism isn't about being immovable. It's about being unshakable in virtue, but always open to growth. An intelligent man knows he is not finished. He doesn't use identity as an excuse, he uses awareness as a tool for transformation. Think about it. Would you accept a broken bridge if the builder said, that's just how it's built? Would you keep using a cracked phone and say, that's just how it is? Then why do we say this about ourselves, as if we are unchangeable stone instead of evolving souls? Saying, that's just how I am, is like telling the woman you love, my comfort matters more than your peace. It's emotional laziness disguised as authenticity. And slowly, without even realizing it, she'll stop asking for change. She'll stop asking for growth. She'll stop asking altogether, until one day she simply leaves, and you'll tell your friends she just couldn't accept me for who I was. But you'll know the truth. You chose your ego over your evolution. Don't let that be your story. An intelligent man listens, not just to respond, but to reflect. He understands that love is not about finding someone who accepts all your flaws blindly. It's about finding someone who inspires you to rise above them. You're not a finished product. You're a living, breathing philosophy. So next time you're tempted to say, that's just how I am, ask yourself, would Marcus Aurelius settle for that? Or would he say, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Your flaw is not your identity. It's your invitation. Don't say it, don't settle, grow. 4. I don't care. The lie that kills connection. Let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever told someone you loved that you don't care, just to protect yourself from feeling too much? Maybe you were hurt. Maybe you were disappointed. Maybe you just didn't have the words. But instead of saying what was real, you shrugged, looked away, and whispered, I don't care. Let me tell you a story. A story you might have lived through yourself. Her name was Amira. His name Theo. They were close. The kind of close where they knew each other's silences better than most people know each other's words. But lately, something had changed. She began to feel distant, less affectionate, less present, and Theo, he noticed. But instead of leaning in, instead of asking what was wrong or if she was okay, he played it cool. One day, after she canceled plans for the 3rd time in a week, she texted, I'm sorry, I just need some space. And he replied with just 3 words, I don't care. But it was a lie he told to shield his pride, a lie he told because he cared too much, and in that moment everything shifted. She read those words again and again, quietly wondering, how can someone who once stayed up all night just to hear me breathe suddenly not care? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. And a good man, a truly intelligent man, cares deeply, not in a loud, desperate way, but in the quiet strength of showing up, of staying when it's hard, of saying the truth even when it scares him. Saying I don't care doesn't make you stronger. It makes you smaller. It disconnects you from your own humanity, from your own ability to love, to feel, to be real. Why do we do this? Why do men, especially intelligent men, fall into this trap? Because caring makes us vulnerable. It opens the door to rejection, to pain, to looking weak. But let me tell you something that only the wisest men understand. Caring is not weakness, it is the highest form of courage. Anyone can detach, anyone can walk away, anyone can pretend they don't care. But it takes a rare kind of man, a stoic man, to stay when he wants to run, to speak his heart when silence feels safer. What if Theo had replied, I do care, and if you need space, I respect it. But I want to understand. Maybe the story would have ended differently. Maybe Amira would have felt seen instead of discarded, held instead of pushed away. You see, in the end, I don't care isn't a shield, it's a wall. And when you build that wall high enough, no one can reach you, not even the ones who love you most. So let me ask you, who in your life have you pushed away with those 3 words? Who needed your care but received your silence instead? An intelligent man never says, I don't care, because he knows that real strength lies in remaining open, even when every instinct tells him to close. He chooses courage, he chooses love, he chooses truth. And you can too. 5. Whatever. The word that ends intimacy. Let me ask you a raw, honest question. Have you ever watched the woman you love, eyes filled with hurt, heart wide open, trying to tell you how much something matters to her? And you just said, whatever? Not out of cruelty, but because you didn't want to deal with it. Because you didn't want to feel it. Maybe she asked, why didn't you call me back last night? Carissa, why do I feel like you're not listening anymore? And instead of leaning in, you sighed, rolled your eyes, and muttered, whatever. Let me tell you something. That word, just one word, has ended more love stories than betrayal ever has. Let's rewind to a man named Jalen. Strong on the outside, calm, composed, stoic in the misunderstood sense. And her? Maya. The kind of woman who loved with fire and vulnerability. The kind who didn't just want his presence, she wanted his depth. One night they argued. Nothing explosive. Just one of those talks where she needed reassurance, needed to feel like she still mattered, that her voice still reached him. And when she said, it hurts when you act like I don't exist, Jalen shut down. He looked away and said, whatever. That was the moment he lost her. Not because she didn't love him, but because he refused to meet her where love lives, in the small, fragile space between confrontation and connection. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. But most men misunderstand that strength. They think it means being indifferent. They think saying whatever makes them immune to emotion, free from responsibility, untouchable. But true stoicism isn't detachment, it's depth. It's not avoiding discomfort, it's facing it with grace and clarity. And when a man says whatever, what he's really saying is, Your feelings are inconvenient, your words are noise, your love is not worth the effort. Whether he means it or not, that's what she hears, that's what she feels. An intelligent man knows that words shape reality, that every moment of dismissal chips away at trust, that apathy is not stoic, it's selfish. So ask yourself right now, when was the last time you said whatever and walked away instead of turning toward her and saying, "Help me understand, I'm listening"? Because connection isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in the quiet decisions to stay present when it would be easier to escape. The truth? Love doesn't usually die in an instant, it dies in layers, in tiny moments like this where whatever replaces "I'm here", where silence becomes the answer, where indifference becomes the tone. So if you care, and I know deep down you do, stop using that word as a weapon. Be brave enough to care, brave enough to stay, brave enough to listen even when it's uncomfortable. Because an intelligent man never says whatever. He says, "I choose to show up even now, especially now." 6. I knew it would fail. The voice of the defeated. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever watched something fall apart? A relationship, a dream, a chance at love, and found yourself whispering, "I knew it would fail"? Not because you really knew, but because it hurt less than admitting you hoped. Let me tell you about someone, a man named Cyrus. Cyrus was brilliant, a deep thinker. He read books others skipped, understood things that most missed. He could see patterns, predict outcomes, and stay 3 steps ahead of everyone in the room. But when it came to love, he was terrified. Not of feeling, but of failing. He once met a woman named Alina, soft smile, fierce soul, the kind of woman who asked questions that reached into your spirit. And for a moment, Cyrus let her in. He shared poetry with her, spoke of dreams he buried under logic. He even told her about his mother, the only woman he ever allowed to see him cry. But as things got serious, he began to withdraw. When Alina asked, "Where do you see this going?" he said, "Let's not get too ahead of ourselves." When she said, "I feel like you're holding back," he smiled, shrugged, and said, "Maybe I am." And when she left, gently, painfully, with grace, he told his friends, "I knew it would fail, but that wasn't the truth. The truth was he feared it would fail, so he never gave it the chance to succeed." Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." What stands in your way, your fear of failure, your fear of loss, your fear of vulnerability, is not your enemy. It's the doorway. But when a man says, "I knew it would fail," he's not being wise, he's being afraid, and disguising it as intelligence. It's the voice of a defeated man who mistakes pessimism for protection. An intelligent man doesn't predict failure to avoid pain. He steps into uncertainty with courage, knowing that love, purpose, and greatness are never guaranteed but always worth the risk. Because here's the truth most won't tell you. You don't get to avoid heartbreak by pre-writing the ending. You don't get to avoid loss by saying, "I expected it." All you do is rob yourself of the present moment, the chance, the depth, the possibility, the very thing that could have changed you. And yes, sometimes love fails. Sometimes people leave. Sometimes it ends with silence instead of symphonies. But saying, "I knew it would fail," is a way to protect your pride at the cost of your soul. An intelligent man says instead, "I gave it everything, I opened fully, I dared, and if it ended, it wasn't because I was afraid to try." So ask yourself, what have you talked yourself out of just because you were afraid it wouldn't last? And more importantly, what could still become beautiful if only you let go of your fear of failure? Don't bury hope under cynicism, because the Stoic doesn't avoid the storm. He walks into it with calm, with purpose, with heart. 7. That's just how I am. The excuse that destroys growth. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "That's just how I am," as if it were the final word in an argument? Maybe after being cold, or distant, or emotionally unavailable. Maybe when she cried because you were too silent, too harsh, too disconnected, and you told her, "That's just me, I don't change." Let me share a story that might sound painfully familiar. There was a man named Armin. He wasn't cruel, he was just rigid, thoughtful, intelligent, and composed. He prided himself on being low maintenance, unbothered, and stoic. But what he didn't realize was that in his pursuit of control, he lost connection. His partner, Layla, was emotional, expressive, passionate. She didn't need him to fix everything. She just wanted him to feel with her. But every time she cried, every time she opened up, Armin shut down. When she said, "Why don't you open up to me?" and he would say, "That's just how I am." And over time, that sentence didn't just end arguments, it ended intimacy. Because what she heard wasn't "accept me." What she heard was, "Don't expect more from me, I've stopped growing." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." And yet most men flip that. They become strict with others and lenient with themselves. They say, "That's just how I am," as if growth is optional. As if their personality is a life sentence instead of a process. But the truth is, "That's just how I am" is not self-awareness, it's self-abandonment. It's the sound of a man who's built walls and called them wisdom. It's the excuse that keeps him from becoming who he's meant to be. An intelligent man knows that he is not fixed, that masculinity isn't rigid, that being strong doesn't mean refusing to evolve. He doesn't use his past to justify his present. He uses his present to rewrite his future. Because who you were is not who you must be. And if you're in love or hoping to be, you owe it to yourself and her to ask, am I hiding behind "that's just how I am"? Or am I becoming the man I'm capable of being? Because here's the hard truth, brother. Love will ask you to grow. It will challenge your patterns. It will force you to soften without losing your edge, to listen without defensiveness, to change without shame. And if you're brave enough to do that, you'll experience a level of intimacy and peace that no alpha performance can ever give you. That's what Marcus meant when he taught discipline, compassion, introspection, and the deep moral responsibility of being human. So no, don't say, "That's just how I am." Say instead, "That's who I was, but I'm not done yet." Brother, this wasn't just a list of things not to say. This was a mirror. And maybe, just maybe, as you listened, you saw yourself. Not as a failure, not as someone broken, but as someone who knows, deep down, he's capable of more. Because the intelligent man is not the one who avoids mistakes. He's the one who learns from them. He's the one who listens when it's hard, who stays when it's tempting to run, who speaks with clarity, love, and purpose, who doesn't hide behind silence, sarcasm, or fear. The intelligent man never says, "Whatever, calm down, you're too sensitive. This is your fault. I knew it would fail. That's just how I am." Because he knows those words kill connection. And real masculinity, real strength, real stoicism, is found not in avoidance but in presence. So if you made it this far, let me speak to the man behind the mask, the one who still remembers the first time love broke him, the one who still wants to be better, the one who's done pretending and ready to be real. You are not too far gone, you are not too hard to love, and you are not stuck in who you used to be. You are evolving, and that's what Stoicism is about. Not being cold, but being calm in the storm, still in the chaos, and loving with quiet, grounded strength. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, if it reminded you of a woman you once loved, or the man you're trying to become, then don't leave this video without doing something. Drop a comment below sharing which of these 7 phrases you've said, and which one you're done saying. Hit the like button, because this content doesn't spread unless you make it visible. And subscribe to this channel because this journey toward Stoic masculinity has just begun. We're not just building a community of viewers. We're building a brotherhood of thoughtful, powerful, loving men, one principle at a time. And if you stay with us, it will change your love life, your mindset, your identity. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.